Mahim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
Good to
very
talk
much.
to you. 5 years on from Credit Benchmark appearing in our lives, everybody knows about you guys. So what's been going on for the last year and what are you looking forward to going forward?
Well, it's gratifying that you mentioned that. I do feel that every time we come to RiskMinds, we are recognized a bit more. So I think the brand recognition is certainly going up. And I think that's reflected in our numbers. So talking about your question, last year at this time, we had 20 banks part of our platform. We now have 32 at the end of this year. So it's pretty much one a month that's been joining us. Now that's staggeringly high pace in what we are trying to achieve. Similarly, on a single name basis, the core rate we produced was about 13,000 last year. And at this point, it's about 25,000. So we have almost doubled the intelligence that we're providing the community. So it's really been a pretty positive year for us.
Why do you think people are coming to you and what do you put that down to?
Well, I think people are beginning to recognize that this is a unique source of data. It's intelligence that hitherto did not exist. And it's providing huge value for risk management purposes because it's the first time you can benchmark your own views with what the street is thinking. Now that's always valuable, not just in credit risk terms, but also in terms of figuring out where you want to be with terms of risk appetite and where you want to go. So it's becoming quite important.
You mentioned the D word there, data. It's obviously proliferated so hugely over the last few years. What would you say about the uses of data and how banks going forward adopt it fully and use expertise like yours, I guess, to do that?
So I think you're absolutely right. Data is the next best thing if it already wasn't the next best thing. What our data is actually doing, or our analytics are actually doing, are improving in quality in terms of risk management daily, constantly. I spoke about single name numbers of 25,000, but that's not all. Our analytics talk about aggregates, portfolio analytics, geographical analytics, industry analytics, as well as at very large levels, the transitions that risk categories are taking across time. So because we're building it up on a time series basis, the analytics are constantly improving for risk management purposes. So I think this is really something that risk managers are beginning to see as a really added arrow in their own quivers.
It's evolving very fast, so you as a company must have to be incredibly nimble and constantly staying ahead too.
Absolutely, and one of the things that tend to happen is we are trying to be cutting edge in terms of our research. So when the Basel IV regulations, as they're called, came out, we did a bit of analysis on them based upon our own data set. So we obviously have aggregate data that we opine on. We don't opine on single names, but we opine on aggregates. And there was a lot of interesting stuff that came out, which we passed on to all the regulators and all our banks who are interested. And things like that are beginning to sort of put us in that light. And that's why banks are also coming back to us now.
You talked there about the regulators. Navigating that landscape is very hard for the banks, and you're hoping you can help by the sound of it.
Absolutely, and wherever we go and whatever we do, we always make it a point to engage with the regulators. Not because we need their approval, but I think it's an important aspect of what we do, and regulators actually love what we do because of the transparency it creates across the industry, and I think that's a big buzzword for the regulators.
So you talked there about the useful tools you have. How do you deliver those?
So what we do is, we deliver them through three mechanisms broadly. So we've got a data file that goes securely from one platform to the other. Secondly, we also have a secure platform, which is a web-based platform. So, people can interrogate the data, and that's more for C-suite. They don't want to see a file, but they want to, just quickly look at a website and see where the risk lies and what the portfolios are. And a similar things we do with Excel, the most favorite tool of the credit analyst, and that allows them to manipulate it for reporting, etc., etc., etc.
So great products and expertise that banks can tap into. You sound very positive and excited, if you like, despite the challenges, because it's a tricky landscape out there, both geopolitically and possibly economically, if we do face the end of the credit cycle. But you're very positive.
Well, I'll tell you why we are positive about this. Simply because, let's just to back up a bit. You mentioned the credit cycle. I was inside right now. Everybody was talking about the fact that the yield curves are negative for after a long time. Recession's coming our way. Now, what we do at an aggregate level, we are able to map correlations across sectors. We are able to map volatilities. Every time you see a transition behavior, that is not intuitive, you know that something is going on. And that's being shown up in our data. So yes, we are positive to the extent, not about where the economies are necessarily going, but positive in the sense that we can help banks deal with that a lot better.
Mahim, thank you so much for sharing your insights. It's been great to talk to you.
Thank you very much.